In English grammar, tense refers to a grammatical category that indicates the time when an action or state occurs. It helps us understand when something happened, is happening, or will happen. Tense is a fundamental aspect of verbs and is used to convey the timing of events and actions in a sentence. English has several tenses, including past, present, and future, each with various forms and nuances. Here's a brief overview of the three main tenses in English. 1. Past tense, used to describe actions or events that have already occurred before the present moment. Example, she visited the museum yesterday. 2. Present tense, used to describe actions or situations that are happening now or are generally true. Example, she visits the museum every weekend. 3. Future tense, used to describe actions or events that will happen in the future. Example, she will visit the museum next week. Each of these tenses can have various forms and aspects, such as simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous, which add additional information about the action's nature and timing. Understanding tense is essential for constructing clear and accurate sentences in English. Today, we're going to explore a fundamental aspect of English grammar, the simple present tense. The simple present tense is used to describe actions, facts, or habitual activities that are happening in the present as well as general truths. It is formed by using the base form of verbs for most subjects and adding s to the verb for the third person singular, he, she, it. She plays the piano. Present action. I eat breakfast every day. Habitual action. The earth revolves around the sun, general truth. The train departs at 3 p.m. Scheduled event. To form questions in the simple present tense, you generally use the auxiliary verb do for most subjects, or does for the third person singular, he, she, it, followed by the base form of the main verb. Here's the basic structure. For most subjects, do plus base form of the verb. For the third person singular, he, she, does plus base form of the verb. Examples. Do you eat breakfast every day? Does she play the piano? Do they speak English fluently? Does he work at the library? Do we need to attend the meeting? In questions, the auxiliary verb, do or does, comes before the subject and the main verb appears in its base form without any s ending. This structure allows you to inquire about actions, habits, or events in the simple present tense. Adverbs of time are words or phrases that provide information about when an action or event occurs. In the context of the simple present tense, these adverbs describe actions that happen regularly, always, or at a specific point in time. Adverbs of time can be placed in various positions within a sentence. 1. Beginning of the sentence. Adverbs of time often appear at the beginning of a sentence, before the subject. For example, always, I wake up at 7 a.m. 2. Middle of the sentence. Adverbs of time can also be placed in the middle of a sentence, between the subject and the verb. For example, she often goes to the gym. 3. End of the sentence. They can be positioned at the end of the sentence as well. For example, they study English every day. Common adverbs of time used in simple present tense sentences include always, usually, often, sometimes, never, daily, every day, once a week, in the morning, and so on. These adverbs help clarify the frequency or timing of actions in the simple present tense. In simple present tense questions, adverbs of time can be placed in different positions based on the structure of the question. Here are some examples. 1. At the beginning of the question. If the question begins with an adverb of time, it usually seeks information about when an action occurs. For example, when do you usually go to the gym? How often do you always visit your grandparents? 2. After the auxiliary verb do or does. When forming yes/no questions, adverbs of time are often placed after the auxiliary verb. For example, do you always wake up early? Does she usually eat breakfast in the morning? 3. Within the question. Adverbs of time can be positioned within the question, after the question word. For example, what time do you usually have lunch? How frequently do you often go for a walk? The placement of adverbs of time in questions helps clarify when or how often an action or event takes place. In negative answers in the simple present tense, adverbs of time are often placed as follows. After the negative auxiliary verb, don't and doesn't. This is a common placement for adverbs of time in negative responses. For example, I don't usually eat fast food. He doesn't always go to the gym. They don't often travel abroad.